I haven't done an intro yet. So how do you think I should start this podcast? Should I have an intro? Should it just be a cold open? What should we do here?
I think it should be a cold open. I think cold opens are the way forward these days.
I love cold opens. Is this the cold open? Good. I think we just found the cold open.
This is the cold open. Is this the start of the podcast? Oh, I'm not even recording. Wait, can we do that bit again?
Welcome
to Uplink. Let's start. Squadrons came out. Let's talk about the overview and the launch of the game first. So thanks to friend of the podcast, Arcross, for giving me his Steam code that he was given. I was able to actually jump into the game early and not have to stay up until like midnight my time.
You got one of the fabled JDOD codes.
I did.
I wasn't expecting to get a code from JDOD. It was like, 2 a.m, about 2 days before the game came out, and he just sent me a message saying, "Oh, what platform do you want the game on?" And I sent a message back saying, "Is this for Operation Ace?" And he was like, "Nah." And then he said something about big boy space battle people or something, and he said, well, I said Origin. I want it on Origin, and he just replied back with Steam, full stop. and then 8 hours later, he just sent me a code.
Brilliant. Yeah, JDOD's awesome.
But yeah, so I got to play it like 6 hours early after I finished installing it, and I did the first mission of the campaign, and I gotta say I really enjoyed it. I was supposed to be talking about multiplayer.
So
but anyway,
let's start off. First off, leading into that, I had no idea until I was on stream that someone said you can actually quit and go to the menu before, like without playing the first campaign mission. I didn't know that when I played on Steam, so I played through the first mission, and then for some like matchmaking issues, I had to switch to Origin, and someone on screen was like, "Oh yeah, you can just like quit out of it." It's like, what?
Interesting.
Yeah, you just pause when you get through the customization part, and then you can go to the menu.
That's quite good. I just played through it because I thought, one, I have to play through it, and two, I don't know, I just wanted to play something.
Exactly. And so for those who had played through the first mission, fantastic. It's a good tutorial about what does what, how the game feels, and overall a good overview to start off with.
Yeah, a great start to the actual story post prologue.
Definitely. And man, let's talk about the overall feel of the game. Goodness gracious, it feels wonderful to play. The controls are great. And it just looks very cinematic.
Yeah,
see, I'm sort of I'm in the middle at the moment. I'm not unconvinced by the game, but I'm not convinced by the game at the same time.
Okay.
I sort of sit in the middle where I feel like it's similar, like, because I've played, I play a lot of Elite, or I used to, and so I'm very used to, to the CQC combat in that, and the game is similar enough to Elite's CQC combat that, I can get the hang of it and everything, but then there's something off about it with the flying, where, or at least with mouse and keyboard, I found myself sort of like really struggling to line up shots and staying on target.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I've just had too much cider or what, but
definitely a possibility there. So I have not played it mouse and keyboard at all. I went into it like I don't really want to play mouse and keyboard. Anytime I've played any Starfighter games, I find that controller is so much better for me. So
yeah, to me, it definitely seems like a game that would be more kind of beneficial if you use a controller, to be honest. I mean, I'm a controller player anyway, so for me it's just my natural game with it. But I can see why mouse and keyboard would be a struggle. And I've seen a lot of people saying they're struggling with it actually, so you're not the only one.
Mm-hmm. So how do you guys feel about the feel of the controls? Ethan, you said that they don't really work well for controller. I mean, on mouse and keyboard. Have you played any of the controller?
Yeah, I played a little bit, but unlike Mark, I'm not really a controller player, so I'd have to spend a bit of time getting used to it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But for that reason, I've stuck with mouse and keyboard, just for the sake of wanting to play it at the time, as best as I could. Yeah, I feel like the key. I feel like it was definitely designed with HOTAS and and controllers in mind first, and then keyboard and mouse as like a secondary thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
I mean, it has vector aiming, right? Which is where if you move the mouse or if you move the thumbstick on the controller, it moves the cursor, and then the ship follows that cursor, as opposed to you just controlling it like you would in Battlefront. Like a camera, basically. Which it works really well with like a sort of like a joystick or HOTAS setup. But I feel like with a mouse, it needs a lot of refinement to work correctly. Like Elite or a lot of people, at least on the Steam forums, have mentioned. I think it's War Thunder, which has that's the one where you like fly World War II planes around. It's like apparently War Thunder has very good vector aiming, which works well with mouse and keyboard. So yeah, I feel like it's not necessarily a mouse and keyboard problem, and more of a maybe a lack of thought. I mean, I don't think mouse and keyboard is well implemented. That's what I'm trying to say.
Going into Battlefront 2 versus Squadrons, I know that was a big question that a lot of us were wondering about when the game got announced. Is like, what's the huge difference between this? Why should I play Squadrons when I have Battlefront 2 Starfighter Assault? And it definitely separates itself from Battlefront in key gameplay ways. I mean, they took a lot of inspiration from Starfighter Assault, clearly, having the descriptions of the ship carried over directly from Battlefront 2.
But
yes.
Yep, they were, yeah.
Didn't notice that.
It's really, really cool to see the inspiration there. But how do you feel about the differences between Battlefront 2 versus Squadrons?
Yeah, I really like it. It feels far more in depth. Like if you look at Squadrons and compare it to Starfighter Assault, like the overall basic controls, like when you're rolling and throttle up and down and all that stuff, like that's obviously the same as as I was expecting. But then you've just got you've got the power management system, the components that will change up how your ship plays out, and it just makes the game feel so much more in depth. Like my interceptor, I've got a component on it which means its acceleration is doubled from its base, and I can always feel that difference no matter what. Even if my engine power's at like the lowest, it just darts forward, and no matter what class, it feels even more unique than Starfighter Assault ever did. Like I'm like, obviously bombers are slower as always, but it feels like there's so much more of a difference in Squadrons for me than Starfighter Assault, and it just, yeah, I'm really enjoying it because I like Starfighter Assault, don't get me wrong, but the fact that this game focuses purely on the Starfighter combat, just it feels a lot more immersive and real to what I'd want.
I was just gonna say that I'm looking at the Steam forums right now, and there's a lot of praise coming from the VR people in that everything feels so well, like they feel very well immersed in it. From a purely aesthetic point of view, they've got tons of like effects and like on-screen effects, camera effects and stuff, which really help immerse the player. And especially when you're doing things like like you were saying, like your interceptor's got the thing where it doubles your acceleration. I'm not sure if it comes across on like a static screen like we all play on, but on VR, from what I can tell in the videos, it sort of like moves the camera about as if like you were like in there with your head,
getting
so, like,
pressed against the chair.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that, or maybe it's just the players like doing that naturally. I'm not sure. And if so, that's just a testament to how immersive the game actually is.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those tentpole games. For the longest period, VR games have been either a supplemental thing for the game or completely ignored or poorly implemented. But this is like they really took into consideration the platform that is VR, how people play VR games.
Yeah, 100%.
So I love that aspect. I also noticed in the menus, it definitely seems like it was very much made for VR in terms of customizing the ships going into the hangar bay. And like where you have to actually move your mouse up to look at the ship to be able to customize it, look at the box. So that's something that I feel has definitely inspired the UI for sure.
For sure. I just want to circle back around quickly because you mentioned the ship customization, where you can. It's clearly designed for VR first, right? But I'm circling back to the whole like keyboard and mouse thing. There's this very specific issue on that screen where if you're viewing your ship on keyboard and mouse, for some reason, like the movement on the mouse is very jittery, and some people reckon it's something to do with how they interpolate like movement between for like VR headsets or something.
Yeah.
Which I just wanted to mention that because I feel like it justifies my bad playing.
It's really cool to see the different things that they took inspiration from. Now let's go on to multiplayer and matchmaking and the overall feel of the different game modes. So let's start off with, how have you guys found the crossplay? Because this is the first Star Wars crossplay game. This is one of the early adopters. It's not the first adopter of crossplay for EA, but this was one of the earlier ones. How do you overall feel about getting into games and how that's worked so far?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, yeah, you were saying about talking about EA games stuff. I believe it's the first EA game that has crossplay at launch, because obviously Need for Speed Heat and Apex Legends have crossplay, but they were added in post-launch. So that was obviously, there was
a hero game that EA came out with. It's like a more towards like Overwatch, and I think that came out with
Rocket Arena. Rocket Arena. Yeah, that had crossplay at launch.
I don't know if it was at launch though.
I think it was at launch.
I think it was sure definitely the first EA game to have crossplay.
Okay, well, I was wrong, but yeah, that was the first EA game that wasn't an EA original. But yeah, no, I love it because the thing is, like, obviously, there's always been this whole stupid console wars that are just, as I said, stupid, and like the beauty.
Key word of that sentence there, stupid.
Yes, the beauty of having crossplay is that everyone can just play on their desired platform and play the way they want to, but also play with their friends on other platforms, playing the way that they want to. Like, I'm obviously on PS. Exactly. Exactly. Like,
so a little plug here. We stream every Saturday at 1 p.m. MST, 8 p.m. BST. Great time. One of the highlights of my week. I love jumping in on a stream, but there's a lot of players that are like, oh man, I wish I could play Battlefront with you, but I'm on Xbox. I'm not on PC. I'm on PlayStation. I'm not on PC. Mm-hmm. But now we've been able to play with a whole wide range of listeners who play on different platforms. And it's so great. Like, if you have in 2020 and forward, if you have a game that comes out and is launched on multiplayer on multiple consoles, there isn't a valid reason to not have crossplay.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's opened up so many, I wouldn't say doors, but like
possibilities.
Like for example, possibilities, and like for example, plug-in Rogue Company here. Rogue Company has crossplay, right? And out of the blue, we kind of just asked if people like. I think I might have been streaming it a while back. I can't quite remember. I think it was. Me and my friend Kieran were playing, and then we wanted a full squad, so we asked Yepper and who was it? Was it Dinko? Maybe, I can't remember who it was exactly. But yeah, like that wouldn't have been possible without crossplay, because I'm pretty sure they're both on console, and now they're regulars in the friends chat, which is
definitely. Mr. Dinko's great. Yepper's awesome. Mr. Dinko's going to be on the Uplink Squadron. Let's go.
Ooh.
Very good. Very good.
Also, one thing that I wanted to shout out before we get further in the episode, this Saturday, October 10th at 9 a.m. Pacific time, Operation Ace is happening. It's a huge esports event featuring many of the creators we've got. Let's name them off here. Bombastic Squadron, the squadron you should root for because it's featuring myself, and we're definitely going to win. The Senate Squadron.
Be there or be not Senate Squadron. That's what I say.
Who we have some representation of Senate Squadron on the podcast today. Ethan will be joining Elliot and a bunch of other people for their squadron. Star Wars Explained. Alex is going to be having his own squadron. I don't know how valid the judging will be because someone who was running the event shaved off his beard to rock a mustache for Mustache Squadron. I don't know if there's fair representation there. I think the person who runs the event should be kind of unbiased, but that's just me. Shout out to friend of the podcast, Boomstick. Great guy.
Boomstick.
I love Boom.
The spearheader of this. Yeah, fantastic guy. Who else? We've got the Shio Squadron.
With
Azatru.
Then there's Eckhart's Ladder with Twin Suns Squadron.
Yes. So we've got 5 great creators that they're putting together a huge esports event. Razer will be sponsoring it. And all of the creators are fighting for different commendations. So basically, a squadron, you have to meet certain requirements to win the big grand prize, and then there are other commendations that like most damage dealt, most kills, most wins kind of thing. But definitely go there at Operation Ace on Twitter to get the full details.
Do it.
But now going forward, let's continue the conversation around crossplay. Have you guys experienced the problems with finding or getting involved with other people on other platforms? Because I've had a terrible time getting people together, because you have EA friends and then you have Origin friends.
No, yeah, you've got your Origin or EA Play friends, as they're called now.
Yeah, true.
And your Steam friends, and then you have, but everything's done through Origin in the back end, I think. So even if
EA
someone
ID.
is on Xbox, they're still So for example, Elliot was streaming Squadrons the other day, and he asked me if I wanted to join. So I said, of course, I said yes. And he was looking for me on his list, and I had Squadrons open. I was on the menu and ready to play, but I just wasn't showing up on the list. In the end, he had to send me an invite through Steam, even though we weren't even friends on Steam, and that was the only way to get it to work. It was a weird. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I haven't had too many issues. Like me being on PS4, I don't have that whole like EA Play friends, Steam friends issue. But like for me, it's just PS4 friends and EA friends. The only thing like I found is that my friends list, like once it's all full, I've got way too many friends on PlayStation because of streaming and stuff. But
Creator problems.
Yeah, but basically, my friends list just keeps flickering. So I'll be trying to invite someone to my squad, but they'll constantly be moving around, and I can't get it. That only happens on the PS4 friends, so I think luckily, I don't think it's really too much of an issue now, but it was like at the start. So trying to get people into my squad was quite infuriating, but I think it's okay now.
It's always been a Battlefront problem, isn't it? Or at least a Star Wars Frostbite game problem. Like the friends list never quite works as intended somehow.
Oh my gosh. I've had so many problems with Battlefront where like we've experienced it on stream so many times. Like I will be able to see 2 people, and then someone else in the party will be able to see everyone, and then they have to send the invite. I had experienced this a little bit with Squadrons. One of the friends of the podcast wanted to play with us, and they could invite me to the party, but anytime I started to try to invite them to the party, it didn't show up.
Weird. Do you remember that time we tried to get into a Battlefront 2015 private lobby with Wolf and
Yes.
That
Rogue
was
and everything? That was weird. That was chaos. Like we had to like chain all of the invites correctly and perfectly in order for it to work, because only certain people could invite others, even though we were all friends on Origin. So we had to get like the right chain of people in the right order. And
in the end, Ginger Giant, I think it was, or
it was Ginger Giant. Yeah,
he was the only person who could see everyone.
We got it to work eventually, and it took like 2 hours fiddling around.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah, but for a first time doing something like this is Motive's. Is this Motive's first game as a company besides Battlefront? This is their first solo game.
This is absolutely.
Yeah, because they've been a support studio for a while, haven't they? They helped with the vehicles. No, they didn't.
Them as a company were created in 2015, I believe.
Yeah.
And they helped with the single player part of Battlefront 2. I think that's
right,
it.
Yeah. I'm sure they were working on something else before, weren't they? Or at least they were helping another studio.
Let's
I
see.
think
they helping
might
EA
have been,
Vancouver?
but-
So Squadrons and Battlefront 2 are the only games that they have worked on.
Interesting.
They were founded in July 13th of 2015. The founder is Jade Raymond. Yeah, so this is their first full all of them game.
And they came out of the blocks running.
They sure did. I love the going into the actual outside of the game experience, going into basically the process of the game. It launched. It wasn't a perfect launch. It had a lot of issues in terms of multiplayer. People were able to launch the game and jump through and play through the campaign. But friend of the podcast, Boomstick, was planning on a 24-hour screen, but was getting the code 918 of death.
Oh my god, yes. So many people had that problem, and I'm still not even sure what the cause is.
For some people, it was their VPNs, and other people, it wasn't really anything.
Well, yeah, because we assumed, because there was what we thought was a clear trend of people who had used a VPN to play the game before it launched in their time zone, and then getting the error code. But then
Boomstick didn't do that at all.
Yeah, and I noticed that because, again, on the Steam forums, you could see after it had released globally, people who had launched the game for the first time started getting it as well. Has that issue been solved? Is that something that's been dealt with now?
I think so, because I
still...
haven't seen it recently. But again, it could just be something that had a big influx in the beginning.
Yeah, I think it has been sorted for the most part, kind of just back end, because a friend of mine, Chad the Dad, he had the issue, and he's now actually playing the multiplayer as far as I'm aware. So, yeah, I think it's sorted now, but obviously, yeah, like that coming out at launch was a big issue, because I think a lot of people were actually refunding the game because of that issue. And obviously it's kind of one of those things that this is happening. I'm not going to play this for a while now until it gets fixed, but that they might not necessarily see that it's been fixed for a while, and it's just obviously quite damaging to the player base.
But as far as launch controversies go, this has been smooth sailing.
Yeah, 100%.
I have to agree and disagree there.
Okay.
I'm not sure if this has been reflected anywhere else on the internet, but so recently I started moderating the Steam hub for Star Wars Squadrons.
Look at you, fancy boy.
Yeah, I can do all sorts on Steam now. I don't mean to stray too far off the topic, and I know this is a nice cozy podcast, but the amount of racist, homophobic, transphobic, just downright toxic stuff I've seen, and I've had to ban people for and delete.
I'm talking about valid controversies here. Okay. As far as valid controversies go, this has been very good.
Yes.
There have been a lot of racist and transphobic, homophobic things going around the community, which is really bad to see. Completely different section. I would like to talk about. We'll go further in depth in a future podcast episode. And again, this is the first episode of Star Wars Uplink, the Uplink podcast. This isn't just a Star Wars Squadrons podcast. It's a Star Wars video game podcast, Star Wars gaming podcast. So we'll still be covering Battlefront. We'll still be covering all of the wide world of Star Wars video games. But right now, the big focus is Squadrons.
Are we going to cover films and shows and stuff?
That will be Uplink Plus. That's where that will be.
Fancy. You're on the Apple route.
Exactly. Uplink Plus Pro Max will be the additional show. So I started streaming the day it came out. I could not figure out how to turn off voice chat, but I couldn't hear anybody. They were talking, but they could all hear me on stream. And so they jumped on my stream and started calling me mean names.
Oh,
I had the exact same issue. I was streaming it on the first night before it came out, and I couldn't hear them. Apparently they could hear. Someone popped up in the Twitch chat and said that they could hear me or something like that, which was bizarre because I was sure that I had turned my microphone off in the game.
I, for the life of me, could not find where to turn it off. I was like, where is it? It's like, I guess it's off, but I couldn't find it out. But yeah, they jumped in. Like, what I want to talk about is the community around Squadrons. Like, it is a new game. It has so much potential. It's a whole new world of possibility. And right off the bat, before the game came out, playing it before it officially launched where we were, people were jumping in my stream and calling me mean names, calling me I stink. And that was about as...
Oh, no.
That was it. I mean, so I got off of it easy.
They were just saying it for no reason?
Yeah, they were like... And it was just one guy who jumped on stream who was in my party, and he was saying the other people were saying I stink and I suck.
What the hell?
Exactly.
That is the opposite of what you are. Come on. They need to go look in the big the Star Wars creator encyclopedia and see that they've read the wrong entry.
That's appreciated, Ethan.
Stinky.
Stinky.
I take showers. I use deodorant, cologne.
I'm sure they must have skipped right to the like the Quinn Knight chapter or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
that must be it.
But I do hope that levels it out and that isn't the example of the community.
Yeah.
So hopefully going forward, and we'll talk about it in another podcast, and as far as the community that springs up around Squadrons. But this one, I just wanted to be overview of Star Wars Squadrons. I think it's a good place to start the podcast. We've got the new Star Wars game out. This isn't just going to be a Squadrons podcast, but it will be a big focus because it is the largest and newest game in the Star Wars universe for now.
I do hope we see a bigger Star Wars game. And sorry, I just want to get to it because I've got a section of my notes. It's the biggest section that I wrote. But I want to talk. Can we just talk about the scope of the game and people's expectations?
Let's do it.
Because I've seen a lot of people who have come into this expecting something similarly sized to Battlefront, and had their expectations not obliterated. Maybe what's the opposite of that? What do I say?
But they're just disappointed, right?
Disappointed.
Readjusted,
because
maybe.
They readjust. Well, not readjusted because they've set their expectations too high. They've compared it to Battlefront, and they've come into this, and suddenly they've got a small scale, not a AAA, but like a AA.
Yeah, I mean it's $40
title. Yeah, it's
that's the thing. Like it's essentially 2/3 of the price that it normally is, and
was it like £35?
Yeah, it's £35 in the UK, and it's just kind of So when I was at uni the other day, I think it was yesterday, I was speaking to my lecturer and he was saying, so Squadrons and stuff like that. We were having a bit of a conversation, and then I was saying another good thing is about like how cheap it is. It's £35 as opposed to like 55, 60 that you normally see. And then someone just chimed in and said, yeah, but that's because it's got no content. And I was like, well, hang on a minute. Like the game is literally, I mean, it's a smaller game, and obviously that's why they're not going to charge that much for it.
It's like, but you don't see people complaining about it when it's not EA or Star Wars. If you get what I mean. Like if you look at something like
Rogue Company.
Yeah, like Rogue Company, for example. It's gone free to play recently, so maybe that's
Rainbow Six Siege. When it launched, it was very small. It's still a small game compared to Battlefront.
Yeah, I mean, it is a small. Well, I wouldn't say it's a small game. Like it has a lot of width, but not a lot of depth. If that makes sense, or at least I feel like there's a lot of stuff, but there's not.
And I think Squadrons is the reverse of that. There's so much depth in the gameplay, and like the skill floor in and of itself is super high compared to other games. But overall, like the maps and the customization is pretty wide in what you can do there. But the scope of the game isn't Battlefront, and it shouldn't be Battlefront. It's $40. I think they set the expectations very well, and this is absolutely. I think it was Ian Fraser said it himself. Like we want this game to be like the games you'd get in the 90s growing up. Like
absolutely, that's
you
what
buy
it feels
one
like.
game.
Like it feels like a PS2 game to me, like like that sort of scale. Not like a GTA scale thing, but like like that sort of like the average game of that era.
Yeah.
It feels like what I'm playing when I play Squadrons, which is nice.
Yeah, and the amount of times they've reiterated that point as well, like Ian has said it countless times on Twitter before. He said it in the multiplayer playtest that I had last Wednesday as well. He reiterated the point that this, what we're doing here is kind of, you pay $40, that here's the game, that's it. Like, we don't want, he literally said, like, we don't want any of your money. This is the thing. Like, they've kind of, told us exactly almost what to expect with the game, but people are still kind of thinking, oh, well, there's probably going to be more, and they're setting their expectations unrealistically high. And I think based on how the game's launched so far, with what game changer reviews, like actual reviews from the press as well, overall
they've
community,
been overall very positive.
They have, yeah, and that's the thing. And a lot of, not all community reactions, of course, but a lot of the community as well have been absolutely loving the game. And just even before launch, like, there was already a lot of possibility, and I'm kind of hoping that they see this community reaction and they kind of dive into it, because there's so many more maps they could add, so many customization options, maybe new ships, new game modes. Like, there is a lot they can do, and I think the community is there for it. Really.
I would really like to see Clone Wars content, and I don't mean to come back to the old Battlefront circle jerk of where's the Clone Wars?
Yeah.
Why don't we have the Clone Wars? Why aren't you making the Clone Wars right now? But I feel like, because pretty much all of the Star Wars like Starfighter games have been OT sort of era roughly, haven't they? They've all been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I feel like Clone Wars could be kind of fun.
Rogue Squadron was original trilogy. I personally love the original trilogy for the ship combat. Like, I think it's so great. But there's a whole world of content. Like we always say, there's a whole world of content in the prequel trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think Squadrons is one of those games where it's going to be a creator and critic loved game.
Yeah.
And not so much the average gamer. But I think it's going to have a really strong player base. And this is just like indicative of Azatru, friend of the podcast, big voice in the community, played with Vicstar. Can we take a moment and think about that for a second? At a guy from from NASCAR or Formula One driver?
Yeah,
Lando Norris.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised to see that. I was like, that is...
Vicstar has 2.5 million followers on Twitter.
He's like, yeah, without a doubt, like, Vicstar is one of the biggest voices in gaming as well. That's the thing.
6.59 million subscribers.
He had Vicstar had a stream last night or the night before where he had 66,000 concurrent viewers at one point. He was almost the biggest stream in the entire world.
What was he playing though? It's important.
I don't know, to be honest.
He plays a lot
probably
of
was like
Warzone, it looks like.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's to be expected. Not in a bad way. I don't mean that in a bad way. No, I just mean for the viewers. I mean,
yeah, it's a huge game. It has a huge community. But yeah, just taking that into note, he played with someone huge in the streaming community, and that's awesome to see. So it may be one of those things that a lot of creators are playing, but maybe it still has that EA mindset behind it in terms of the worldwide of gaming.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be one of those games where it's going to get, awards left, right, and center. It's going to be a big critical success. It's going to have probably, I imagine, a small but strong and consistent player base for a long time. I don't see it being a widely played game, or at least not beyond these few launch weeks here. But I think overall, and most importantly, it's going to be a sort of like a learning thing for EA.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the feeling I get from this game as well, is that it was kind of an experiment and something that they were willing to sink money into. And
it shows a shift in EA's thinking that we have a game like this that is made. When EA first got the license, there was no way they were going to make a game like this. Battlefront 2015 was definitely a smaller scale game mode, but it had that continued support. And then I think with Battlefront 2 2017 fantastic game, but I think they spread themselves a little too thin on the type of content that they wanted to add, and the type of game that they wanted to be was way too big.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that game had a lot of development problems as well, for sure, like along the way. Battlefront 2.
I mean, when you have 3 game dev companies working together on a single game, that's definitely going to happen.
Yeah, but you think it had like just over a 2-year turnaround, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like that.
They had DICE lost a significant portion of its senior staff in the run up to launch, which is arguably one of the most important periods for a game, because up until that point the game is playable but it doesn't look that great usually. There's usually lots of blockouts and untextured things and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, a lot of the senior staff went off to form Embark, which is another Stockholm studio. Apparently they're working on something like really big and interesting. I can't wait to see that. But so I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, DICE had to outsource a lot of the artwork stuff for DICE, or some of the sort of like the technical artwork stuff. So like the hair, for example, got outsourced for a lot of stuff to Airship, I believe, in the UK somewhere. So it didn't have a great time in its last 6 to 10 months of development. Which definitely didn't help. But like you said, it was a very broad game, ambitious game.
Mm-hmm. And the beauty of Squadrons as well is that it doesn't it just goes to show that bigger isn't better, and that they can focus on these kind of niche areas. Like we haven't had a game like Squadrons with Star Wars since the old days of Rogue Squadron and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a it really is a niche market for gamers, but there is a market out there for it. A lot of people that I've seen in the Discord have come from games like Elite Dangerous and Ace Combat 7 and stuff like that. So it goes to show that they can kind of tap into those markets. I mean, ultimately we kind of still need to wait a few months, see what the player base is doing after a few weeks, months, so on, and see what sales are like and stuff like that, because there's still... Because, it's all well and good saying, oh, reviews so far are fantastic, this is great, but how long are people going to be staying around? Are they only going to be sticking around for a couple of weeks? Are they going to be sticking around for months?
That's still to be determined.
Like for example, on launch day, because I've been keeping an eye on the Steam in-game number. It tells you roughly how many people are in the game currently on the hub, and on launch, I saw it hit sort of around 30 to 40,000 people, playing at that time, and it sort of appears to sort of average out at around 6,000 to 8,000 people. At the time of the recording of this podcast, there is 8,876 people in game on Steam playing Squadrons. So that's just on PC basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
which is pretty healthy for a game like this.
It's good. It's probably important to say as well, it's 11 p.m. currently in the UK, so probably a lot of European and UK player base will have gotten off by now as well. So it's still, that's still pretty solid.
That's a very healthy number for a game like this.
It'll be interesting to see if they release any sales numbers. I can't find the exact number for Battlefront 2, but I believe they were pitching. They're pitching around 12 million up around there for Battlefront 2 at launch, and it did.
I'm sure they updated it recently, didn't they?
I can't find anything on it. Let's see. By December 2017, the game has sold 9 million copies, and they had hoped to sell 10 million.
Both Battlefront games sold. Both Battlefront games combined sold 33 million copies. But obviously, a lot of those I think would have obviously come from the first game, because this was Battlefront.
I know at one point after after Battlefront 2 got added to PlayStation Plus, they had at one point indicative of the number of trophies earned in Battlefront 2. They had 14 million people play it. That's just on PlayStation.
Well, it is. So based on the last numbers that EA gave us, sort of towards the middle to end of last year. They said that the Battlefront game sold a combined 33 million units, and we already know that Battlefront 2 2015 sold 12 million units, so that leaves 21 million units sort of in a grey area, which I would assume is mostly Battlefront 2.
Yeah, and that was before the Celebration Edition.
Yeah, that's units sold as well, so it doesn't count all of the free players on
PlayStation Plus. And it was, so in between these numbers and now, the Celebration Edition came out, it was added to PlayStation Plus, and it was added to Steam.
Sorry, before we end, should we give some quick rough ratings out of 10 of what we think?
Sure.
Out of how many so from 0 to 10 uplink pods.
How many uplinks is it? What's the uplink bandwidth?
Uplink stations.
Wait, who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I would give Star Wars Squadrons at launch. I'm just judging the game of itself. I haven't played the campaign. This is just the multiplayer in terms of my experiences with it, in terms of how much I enjoy the game. I would probably give it an 8 to 8.5.
That's pretty solid, yeah. I've given it a very tentative 7.5.
Okay.
Based on the very little that I've played of it so far.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, having played almost half of the campaign alongside the multiplayer, I haven't really experienced too many issues as well. So for me, it's got to be like a solid 8.5, 9.
That's pretty good. You clearly like this game a lot.
Yeah, I'm honestly very happy. It's definitely exceeded my expectations. So yeah, I'm very pleased.
I'm really eager for this game to excite me more.
So collectively,
if I play it more.
Of this panel, we give the game an 8.16.
8.16. That's pretty solid.
Good.
That's a good. I mean, like in terms of like game ratings, that's considered very good.
Definitely.
Because like what a 7 is what IGN would class as like a good game.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a solid
and just for
score.
reference, IGN gave the game an 8 out of 10.
Well, there you go.
Very good.
Thank you so much for joining. Links to everything will be down in the description. We are less than 100 subscribers away from 1,000 subscribers.
Subscribe now.
YouTube.
Do it. You'll have to use the sound effect twice in this podcast now.
Oh yeah.
Sage.
That's what I'm looking for. All the sound effects.
All of the do-its.